So, good morning everybody. John Sharkey from Sonas Consulting Group. I'm delighted to be here. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for the opportunity to stand in front of you for the next 10 or so minutes. When Brady approached me and said, John, can you do something to finish the year on a bit of a good note, moving forward for our break for 4 weeks? And I thought to myself, well, how can I best serve the room to give them some information that they haven't received before? So obviously I went through some of my notes, and I thought perhaps if I could share a little bit of what I enjoy doing with people, and that's assisting them in understanding how they think as opposed to what they think. So I just want to check in and make sure that's okay with everybody, yeah? You cool with that? Wonderful. While I was thinking about it, I thought of a time, I said, gee, how cool would this have known this many years ago? In a past life, I started out as an apprenticeship as a chef way back in Ireland. And I remember having an executive chef, and I shared a story with you, that he was revered in the area and the hotels we worked in. And looking back then, I understand that what he was actually trying to do was to get me ready to go out into the big world. And he wasn't just teaching us the mechanics of what is involved with being a chef, he was teaching us the mechanics of what's involved with human behavior. Because if you understand large hotels, we were working with groups and teams of anywhere from 60 chefs up to 100 people in large brigades. And it was very systemized and very structured. So you need to know how to understand yourself within that system and that team environment. So I'll finish up with that a little bit later. So I thought it'd be interesting if I could share with you that most people know what to think, but they don't actually know how to think. And Henry Ford always says it, and it's often the simplest quotes that actually make the most sense when you stop and think about it. And he said, if you think you can do a thing or you think you can't do a thing, you're right. And for those of us who have children, we've often said that to our kids. Often said that to them, and continue to say it. In fact, my father still says it to me today. So, before I actually get into the crux of what I want to be able to discuss with you today, I want you to understand how we actually decipher our world. And I've got some initials up there, VAKOG. And for every human being, this is actually how we see our world from our external environment coming in. And we see it through what we call our modalities of how we decipher things. Basically visual, auditory, kinesthesia or feelings. And I've added 2 on here, olfactory and gustatory. So if you could put your hand up like this here just for a split second, just for a second. And if you can imagine a large round lemon in your hand right there, right now. And take your pretend knife and cut that lemon in half. Actually cut the lemon with your pretend knife. And just notice what happens on the inside of your mouth. You notice the inside, straight out of your unconscious mind, you'll start to salivate in your mouth. You feel that? So that gives you an example of how strong it is from a gustatory perspective. That's actually a gustatory anchor. And you have that when you walk into the house and you smell something, or walking down the street, or that fresh cut grass. They're all anchors that we're not always aware of. So this is actually how we see our world. We actually see the external event that comes across. And this is pertinent to B&I when it comes to us wanting to work to attract visitors. Because this is actually how we communicate with ourselves from the outside world. So we'll have the external event that comes across. We'll actually bring it into our cortex. And we'll talk about time, space, energy, matter. We have the language around it. We have memories. We have meta-programs. We have decisions. Our own values and beliefs and attitudes. And most of those are actually learned behaviors. So what do I mean by learned behaviors? Well, we learned it when we were growing up around the people we were hanging out with. Which is why the very first thing that we're doing next year is we're changing our environment. And to me, that's a really exciting time for B&I. We're changing our environment. We still have the structures in place. We still have the systems that are there. And we have the people that we're drawing into that environment. So when you have a look around your business, your life, your relationships, have a look at the environments. Because it's the environments that create your beliefs, your values, and your systems, and so on. With this internal representation that we have, we make it mean. That's why we say nothing has meaning except for the meaning that we give it. Think about that. Nothing has meaning except for the meaning we give it. So you can go through any situation, and it's actually you putting the meaning on that, good or bad. Something to think about. From the internal representation, we choose the state that we're in. Happy, sad, Up, down, low, joy, peace, whatever. And then we become the physiology. To make this as simple as possible, we bring it in, so we have to think about it. Then we have to feel it, which is the state, and then the physiology becomes the behavior. Most people are so busy in the behavior or the physiology that they actually forget that they're thinking it first. It comes from a thought first before it becomes anything else. So I want you to become aware of that as we move forward in B&I when it comes to building our chapter. I trust that makes sense. Anybody have any questions so far? We're all good? Great. So here we are. These are the 4 levels of critical thinking. This is the crux of what I'm here about today. Okay? Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So level 1, doing what feels good. It's good for me, it's good for others, and good for the greater good. Anybody want to give me an example of a level 1 thinking? A referral. That's right. Or working in charity, or going and doing exercise. Yeah? I'm quickly going to go through these because I am aware of the time constraint. Level 2 is doing what does not feel good, is good for me, is good for others, and is good for the greater good. Perfect example of that is picking up the phone and inviting a visitor. Doing anything for the first time, whatever it is in life, actually is uncomfortable. It feels a bit chunky. Think about the first time you had to learn to drive a car. Or think about the first time you had to go fishing, Michael. You had to learn that behavior to do it. Or starting out in the bank, Phil. Or Matt, you starting out going from, you were doing marketing into your business. It's a bit awkward, it's a bit clunky at the beginning. Then it becomes easier. Most people move away from that. But in actual fact, to have the acceleration that you want in your life, and in the B&I chapter, we must step into this level 2 thinking, or above the line thinking. Making that phone call or that sales call, doing what does not feel good. But you know it's good for you, it's good for others, and it's good for the greater good. Level 3, doing what feels good, is not good for me, is not good for others, is not good for the greater good. I'm thinking of drinking beer a lot here. Or eating pizza. Or eating half a ton of chocolate over Easter. Yeah? It feels good, but you know it's not good for you, it's not good for others, it's not good for the greater good. And level 4, spend enough time here and you're going to move across to level 4. Doing what doesn't feel good, it's not good for me, it's not good for others, it's not good for the greater good. That's generally the way we're thinking when we're about to exit. And that could be business. That could be a relationship. That could be life itself. So quickly capping. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So, I call this above the line. Above the line, it's long term, comfort zone, charity work, exercise, helping people. Okay? Level 2, generally a first, doing something for the first time, but it's short term. There's no certainty and it's uncomfortable. Because you've got no guarantee it's going to work, whatever that is. Level 4, level 3, it's addictions, it's alcohol, it's food. This is the level 3 thinking. And this is the exit. You want to accelerate your life, level 2. You want to accelerate B&I, level 2 thinking. This is where we want to be, guys. So going forward for the next few weeks, have a think about having an understanding of where your thinking is at. You're going, I really don't want to make that phone call because, you know, I feel a bit awkward. I feel a bit strange. Remembering it's a thought first, becomes a state, and then it becomes a behavior. Okay? Above the line, we call this above the line, at cause. Below the line, at effect. Any questions so far? No questions? Great. So you can see, spend enough time there at level 3, you move across to level 4 and you exit. Literally, you exit. And for some people, that could be months or years. But it's a choice. So what we're talking about here is all choice. And because you're choosing it, and because it happens so fast, most people aren't aware of the fact that it's happening in a nanosecond. They think their thoughts just turn up. Well, I'm not going to make that phone call today, or I'm not going to do that challenging thing, or I'm not going to have that conversation with the employee that needs to be had with the employee or the member of staff. It's just something really to have a think about for the way you think. Above the line again. And finally, guys, as I'm closing, I want you to habitually do what makes you feel good. Because as you feel better in what you're doing, in fact, when you think about making that phone call or you think of inviting that person to B&I, it will feel awkward, it will feel comfortable for a while. And then once you get over that, then the next challenge comes. I believe that in 2013, the biggest problem we're going to have in this chapter is how do we create enough space for the amount of members that we're going to be inviting, for the amount of guests that we're going to have coming along. And then I believe from there we're going to have the choice of who we actually want into our environment. Who do we want to choose to come into our environment? We don't just want anybody. We want somebody who's going to be in alignment with these values. Because this is our environment. And this is what should be protected. So I'll leave it at that, guys, and say thank you very much once again for having me. It's been an absolute privilege and an honor to stand up in front of you for the last 7 to 10 minutes. And just so you know, we're always in a state of trance. Right now, you're in a state of trance. You've got that comfortable feeling, you're engaged, you're listening, you're driving your car, you're in the highest state of trance. You're actually in expanded awareness, which is quite safe, because you can see the car up ahead. You're not thinking about anything else. And generally, if you are, that's when you slam the brakes on. But can you think that if you had to think about slamming the brakes on, if you had to think about that process, you'd end up hitting every single car in front of you. So therefore it becomes about how we think, not what we think. Most people know what to think, they don't necessarily know how to think. And in this room, I believe you guys all know how to think because you're actually quite entrepreneurial. You're leaders in your organization. You're leaders in your industry. You're actually out there doing the do. It's important that there's times when you remind yourself of this. You guys are actually stepping up in your organizations and you're stepping up in your life. I commend you for that. I commend you all. Because this is the kind of environment that I want to hang around in. I choose to get up at 5:30 in the morning to be here. That says something about the kind of people I want to hang out with in my environment. Cool? Any questions? Done? Thanks very much, guys. Look forward to next year. The ups and downs and the challenges and the sideways. Thanks very much, John Shark from Sonas Consulting Group. Thank you.